Hey everybody, I'm Seth.
And I'm Andrew.
And together we're
E-Ride Life,
where we bring you everything electric
every day.
Hey guys, we're super excited to bring you guys an unboxing today. Andrew, what are we unboxing?
We've got the Kaabo Mantis Pro SE Special Edition, Gold Edition, 007 Edition.
Nice, let's see what's in the box.
You got your standard foam pieces. If you don't have any foam pieces in your box, you probably want to return the scooter because it's going to be broken. So let's go ahead and pull that out. One thing I see in here is the Kaabo emblem. Definitely make sure to save that because I know a lot of people are like, I didn't get my Kaabo emblem. Hey, it's typically in the box. Check all over inside of it. You have the wheel nut covers. These are great, but a lot of times these fall off, so I actually suggest getting some sliders for your little wheel nut covers. Those things aren't going to come off. You got your charging cable, well, half of it. You also have this tool. This is great just to have on hand in case of emergency, but I do suggest you get an upgraded tool set. These things are pretty soft, and when you go to tighten bolts, and if they're not in there tightly, it will actually it's a soft metal that will bend and actually strip your screws. So I don't really suggest using this if you don't have to, but good to have in case of emergency. Most scooters come disassembled. The reason why they don't come assembled with this thing on there is because it's too hard to package it. The handlebars are too wide, and the box would be gigantic, so they always typically come just like this. You have your actually charging box and your instruction book, which Kaabo has a decent instruction book, but I still do think there's a language barrier when they're writing this thing. So I would definitely suggest YouTubing some videos. Vora Motors is awesome. They've got plenty of videos on exactly how to set up your Mantis and all the P settings too. There you go. Let's show this beauty. So it's got the gold accents. These are actually going to be the exact same gold accents that you're seeing on the new Kaabo Wolf King. So it's pretty exciting that we get to do this comparison to the new Kaabo Wolf King that's coming out here shortly. Let's go ahead and kick down this kickstand here, and let's go ahead and get this all set up here. Like I said, I don't really want to use this tool set, so I'm going to go ahead and go grab my other Allen wrench set here, and we'll get this thing assembled. Yeah, one thing I'm going to do is call out Kaabo on this. I wish you guys would choose better bolts. I've seen quite a few of your bolts strip in the past. I've seen them strip on motor hubs, which is extremely dangerous. So I do suggest that you guys either make sure you Loctite these or eventually just change out the bolts. Ginger on Wheels, he changed out a lot of his bolts, and I think it's a great choice to do. Nothing's worse than having some soft metal and then having it strip the holes, and then you have to re-tap the hole. Never a fun job to do. So yeah, it's really easy. It's just got 4 bolts here. That thing pops right off, and then you just stick up this handlebar to whatever you want your adjustment to be. So this one's a little crazy. Oh, there it is. So they've already got it like that, and then we'll do the final adjustment on here. So you want to make sure that this thing's kind of centered right here, the little ratchet part, and then just go ahead and put the 4 bolts in. Yeah, if you have just a regular Kaabo Mantis base model, the things that you're also going to see upgraded on here is going to be an a Mini Motors i3 display. That's always nice. The old ones that weren't the Pro were just actually using the QS-S4 display, which those things work, but it's just a lot smoother when you do the Mini Motors controllers. The other thing is like they have made these plug and plays, but they have started doing that on the previous Mantis Pros as well, to where if something actually breaks, you can just unplug it and re-plug it back in. That way you don't have to try to rewire it through the whole stem, which can be quite a task for you. But here's the stem that we were talking about. They have upgraded the stem tremendously. This happened to break on people all the time and actually fold over on them. So they have upgraded this stem to prevent that from happening. However, I have seen someone say that they still had the stem break on them. So definitely want to still be a little bit careful about how you go about that. This Mantis comes in at $18.99. A lot of people don't realize it does have less amp hours than the fluid freeride one that has 23.5 amp hours. But for $18.99, having it in this gold color, and as long as you're not trying to go too far of range, this is a great choice for you. And then you can also adjust these things here. I like to have the brakes just a little bit angled more down. It tends to be a little bit easier on the hands. They have improved on the motor hubs as well. So what I was finding on the older Mantises, because we actually had to switch out the motor hub on that other one we had, the bolts in the motor hub have gotten a lot longer. We saw that the bolts in the motor hub were about, let's just say 8 millimeters, and the new ones have like 11 to 12 millimeters of depth. And that's really good, because what we were finding was it was stripping the bolts and the motor hubs were coming apart, which could be very dangerous. It could actually collapse and pinch your tube and end up popping on you. So go ahead and get this unwrapped, and then we'll do a comparison side by side for you. You can buy thumb throttles, but I prefer trigger throttles. Some people come from the four-wheeling world and they like a thumb throttle instead. But a four-wheeler is easy to maintain your balance, where on a scooter it's better to have your trigger being the one that's holding it, so your thumb's holding your pressure on there, because the problem is if you're actually using your fingers and you're using your thumb, nothing's holding it quite there, and your thumb is one of the strongest muscles in your hand. So this thing right here, the i3 display just has 4 screws on here. You just loosen it up a little bit, and then that allows you to retighten it into the position that you want. One thing I appreciate about Vora Motors is they actually have a checklist where they check the scooter before they just ship it. Some people are actually just picking up the scooters, getting it shipped to their warehouse, and just sending it directly to the customer without checking on it. So I love that there's a quality a QC checklist. Talking about it's checking for the miles per hour, which they change because normally they come in kilometers because it's made in China. It checks to make sure that the lights work on there, the charging port's in place, because those can come up loose. They test out the brake. They show the resistance on there, because you don't want a motor hub that has no resistance at all. But a whole bunch of things that you can see right here, and really great thing on Vora Motors for them to do this checklist. They both have zoom brakes, so you have that zoom brake on there. This one's a little dusty on here. It's got the gold little placements on there. The motor hub is where it's a little bit skinnier. So I can already see right here when I look at the motor hub that this motor hub is actually fatter than this motor right now, that what we're looking at. So it's hard to really tell here, but you can see the distance of how far that motor hub sticks out. And then look at this motor hub right here, how far it sticks out, not very much. So they have improved on the motors, which is definitely a sweet upgrade. But pretty much they're very similar. They just upgraded components that were failing on them, and as I was saying, the motor hubs were starting to fail on customers, unfortunately. They were finding that if they weren't tightened all the way, which this is another thing that I wish Kaabo would do, is apply Loctite, especially to the motor hubs, is if they actually came loose, what you were finding is they'd come loose and they would start to rub because it's a split rim. So once it was loose, the bolts would start to rub, and then they become stripped and sheared, and so the motor hub would become useless. So they've actually increased the depth of it and increased the bolt size to fix that issue. So I do appreciate that they've at least done that, but I do suggest that you try to switch out the bolts or make sure they're always tightened, and also Loctite them. But yeah, you go ahead and just go ahead and start this thing right up. It should turn on. We've got the nice underglow light, so that's similar. That's the same on this other version as well. You still have that same light, but as you can see, this is more white and the other one is actually blue.
Is that something you can change?
I don't think you can change that. That's just come standard on the older one. So the older ones have this little white light on there, while this one has that blue underglow, which I like the blue underglow a lot better. Yeah. The cops might not like it though. They think you're imitating them. So no, it's a very sweet scooter. One thing I would definitely suggest is checking all the bolts. Voro does check the bolts for you, but I would still go through them, just making sure everything's tightened before you go take it off for a ride, because nothing's worse than getting a brand new scooter. You don't tighten the bolts. I've had kickstand fall off on one of my Kaabo Wolf Warriors immediately within just a couple miles, so definitely want to make sure you check the bolts on these things. Yeah, so for final wrap up is I love the gold accents on this thing. A lot of people don't like it, but I think it's kind of flashy and kind of cool. I love that they've increased the motor hub size because the old ones were having issues on it, and also this new controller button. So pretty sweet ride. Excited to compare this to the Kaabo Wolf King. That should be here shortly, and we'll race them both against each other.
That was awesome. Thanks a bunch, Andrew. I'm really excited to see that head-to-head race. This is going to be a lot of fun.